Hi, thanks for tuning in today. My name is Jesper and I'm the head of product at Mestro. We're a company that helps property owners, property managers, and also tenants to reduce their energy and at the same time reduce their environmental impact. And I'm here to talk to you today about how we shifted from a startup company to a full-blown scale-up, which is now also listed at Nasdaq. You will learn how we democratized our product development process, and at the same time we managed to grow more with our customers and also still reducing our churn of almost 0%. We will start from the time when I started at Mestro almost 5 years ago, and will stretch up until today when we're a completely different company. So how did I end up at Mestro in the first place? Well, I have a background as an industrial engineer student with a degree, or a master's degree rather, in industrial management. And I found myself, after my studies, very interested in how technology was used by people and also how technology could be used as a means of improving sustainability and reducing environmental impact of us humans. So I started my research at Uppsala University. After that, I joined a research group in smart grids with projects mostly in Sweden, but there were also some research networks around Europe. I found that very interesting and gave me a good background of the energy market, both how the technology worked and also the economics behind it all. So my interest in energy and infrastructure on that later took me to RISE, the Research Institute of Sweden, where I was involved in different projects and mostly stayed in Johannesburg, South Africa and surrounding areas, working together with UNISA and with Witwatersrand University, different projects with energy supply where infrastructure is lacking or very poor. And I think there was somewhere in those projects I found myself again wanting to do more impact, have more direct impact, and ask myself, where do I go? And the answer was obvious. Of course, I will join a startup.
So I started at Mestro almost 5 years ago as part of the customer success team. And after a couple of years, I got the opportunity to start and build up a whole new product department built around Mestro, what we want to be today, and our ambitious plans for the future. So I will share with you some of these lessons. But first, I will just briefly talk a little bit about what we do as a company. And if you are interested in learning more, you can log on to our website and read in on us. So Mestro is a Stockholm-based SaaS company in energy and sustainability management. So basically what we do is we help our clients by collecting, storing, analyzing and visualizing the measurable data that flows through buildings. And this data is used in many different ways for energy efficiency measures, sustainability reporting, budgeting, and we have a wide range of stakeholders, as you understand, and this makes also our offering quite complex. And because of that, we need a very well-structured approach to product development and UX design to avoid scope creep and make sure that our products are user-friendly for all our stakeholders.
When I started at Mestro back in 2017, we were still very much a startup company with all the good and also bad things that comes with that. We had a very small development team and they were responsible for everything like developing the product, maintenance of the product and also delivering things to actual customers. They were working very closely with the customer success team and collaborating together to fill in the gaps that our product had. At this point of time, I would say we had three main issues that were affecting the product development. We had too much individual needs met of individual clients. this gave the effect of a very sales-driven development process, and because of that, the goals for product development were very fragmented based on various amount of needs. And why is this a problem? I mean, it's not a problem if you would understand it and do something about it. And I'm not saying that that was wrong of us to have this kind of process at that point in time. I think it's inevitable for a startup to at a certain point of their life have to say yes to all needs coming from clients. But the problem is that we were past that point and we didn't have to say yes anymore, because we had landed and had a stable platform and was about to scale up, but still said yes to everything, which kind of crippled us and our growth at the time. So the problem here was that the priorities were completely sales driven, which meant that it was basically impossible for our development team to reach their goals. And of course, that's a very stressful environment to always be trailing and always feel like you don't perform enough. And of course, the tensions between the sales team and the development team, and also customer success together with the developers who were delivering our product in the end, the tensions between all these departments was at a very high place at the time, which affected the relations and communications in the whole company, which also were a big issue at the time. So what was good back then? I mean, we even back then had a somewhat good culture and good people coming in the company, even though there was a lot of tension. Most people stayed. Some of the clients were actually quite happy because they gotten their features, but a lot of them weren't. And of course, there was a lot of room for potential and building this company into something better. So that's also, of course, a good thing. And what's surprising to me throughout our history is, even back then, when you look back at it, we had almost 0% churn. But I will get back to that a bit later as well.
So after some time, there were some organizational changes, which led to a shift of power more towards the tech team. And our product development instead was quite tech-driven for some time. The main reason for this was that we needed to do some major changes in our database and basic technology, and a lot of responsibility was put in the tech team for driving these changes. And we realized that some other issues arose at this point. Opposite from before, we instead had too little focus on our end users and the clients. Paths were often chosen because they were technologically better for us rather than the users instead. And the frustration between development team and sales team was still pretty bad. And while the vision of implementing this new system was very grand, the actual shorter term plans for implementing and developing were lacking.
So what was actually good at this time? Of course, we did some interesting things, even the tech-driven things, working on basic things on our platform, which in turn led to more stable base for the product with collecting and storing and everything like that. So that was something positive. Another thing that was positive during this time was that the development team tried different methods of development, like Scrum, for instance, as a product development process. This didn't turn out to something that we actually wanted to do. It wasn't a good fit for a company, but that was some good learning experience to take with us in building a better process. And this is something I understood when I talked to the team after, but I will come to that later. And at this point of time, the churn was still very low. So that has been with us like I said from the beginning, and that's something that I will elaborate on later as well. So let's move on to talk a little bit about what I actually learned from how we used to do things and how we do things now instead. First things first, like making mistakes isn't really a problem itself. If you don't make mistakes, you're not moving fast enough, right? But they become a problem when you don't learn from them or don't change your way you do things and still keep making the same mistakes all over again. So what I want to share with you now is firstly the lessons I've learned from how we previously did things, and then I will share also insights on a few changes we did within our processes of product development and user experience development. So what you want to do, or what I actually found that we want to do, is to build products for many users and not just a few. So the previous way of doing things, when we did the customized products for certain users, only led to lower overall customer satisfaction. So this is something that we changed. And in doing this, we also need to find the real customer need, the true customer need. And I mean, the easiest way to do that is to talk to your customers a lot and find out what they want, but you need to focus on what's the need of the many and not just a few. And working with these needs, you also have to balance them in regards of your technological base and what you can do tech-wise. So from the beginning, we had a very sales-driven and not even customer-centric design, and then later we had a very technologically driven design instead, but none of those actually worked out that well for us. So you need the balance between them to be more successful. And at the same time, you don't want to solve all the problems at once. If you build towards the too grand vision and try to solve all the problems at once, you probably won't come that far, right? So, a super important point right here is that all teams are equally important for the success of your company, or at least for us. And because of that, all of them should have a voice, even in product development, I believe. So we, as a product team, need to find out the needs internally and what they have found as it comes to external needs as well. And then we need to balance all of these opinions and find the best way forward for us as a company. And to do this, of course, we need to communicate a lot, but this was something that we also found important for the company as a whole. Like now we communicate a lot. Like the lack of communication only leads to frustration and bad cooperation between the teams. And as a result of that, the result of the actual company also is much worse than they could be if you don't communicate and understand each other and cooperate in a good way. And the last point of these lessons is that we tried a lot of different methods. I guess a lot of you also tried like Scrum or Agile or Waterfall or whatever. But for us, what I found is if you try to fit one of these in our development, it doesn't work. Like it's not a one-size-fits-all. But it's good to try a whole different range of methods to understand the value of them to your own product development. So what did we actually change in the process then? Before going into that, I just want to say that our offering is quite complex, which I found out. So that's makes it even more important to have a well-structured development process and also UX design process. And this is to avoid most of all scope creep, to do too many features and not do them well, and also to ensure that our products in the end are very user-friendly. So the first thing I actually did was quite simple. I mean, I sat down and talked to everyone involved in the process of product development, which in my mind now was basically everyone at the company or at least a few people from each team, to understand what they would need from the process and also what they would need in terms of communication from us as a product team. And this really helped a lot, filling out the gaps of the knowledge I already collected about how we did things before. And I mean, it seems quite simple, but it really helped me a lot and made the process or the upgrading of the process or evolvement of the new process much easier. So here are a few things we do differently or look at differently now than we did before. That has helped us grow a lot with our customers and produce better products, basically. So we consider ourselves like a team of teams. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but we're not a very hierarchical structure. We are very low hierarchy, and we want to keep this even as we grow. I mean, when we're 12 people, it's quite easy to hold on to that, but now when we're approaching 40 and we're going to grow even more, we really need to actively work on maintaining this way of communicating with each other and working together. And like I said before, we communicate a lot all the time. We talk about everything. We try to involve everyone that should be involved at the right time. So, for instance, we involve our development team very early in the product research process to make sure that we don't have to iterate too late in the process and understand what we can do technology-wise. And we even, of course, have technology-driven development still. I mean, we also include the whole company in the product development a lot to do workshops and understand what they can collect. And of course, we involve our users early. So there's a lot of involvement of all different stakeholders, both internally and externally, to understand the needs of them early in the process than we ever could before. So it's even in product research. Again, we involve our users in story creation and again in the UX process and for testing and everything. So we understand as much as possible of how our users use our products and can build a better product, basically. So a few more concrete things that we changed in the how we do product development is that we now have a few focus areas each quarter to not be spread that thinly with our resources, and we can also produce more content for our products, for our features, for our releases. And we break down the development time in 3 different lanes, which is new feature development, that's all new features and products, and maintenance, which is more basic things and also things that we need to be able to scale technology-wise. And then we have research lane, which is more long-term, and all of these are equally important, of course, but in different periods of time, you might need to shift up on some of these. For example, release new features at a certain point of time or build more scalability. And it's a very flexible system where you can move between them. And how we manage to produce more features also is because we break down large features into smaller features and in the end also stories. But these smaller features allows us to be able to release more things, and we don't need to build everything to create value. We can release a few features and still create value for our clients in a shorter amount of time. So we need to shorten the amount of time before we can produce something in our portfolio. And the next step, like I said, is to use user stories with the perspective of the actual user of the system to describe how they want to use these different features and why, and then how they're probably solved. Of course, the technology team is the best team to understand how we will actually implement it, but at the same time we iterate all the time. So we throw things back and forth between the front end and back end team, front end and UX and product owner, and even back to the users themselves to be able to produce products that will actually be used by the users because it's what they want. So at Mestro, the UX designer is now part of the product team, and he used to be part of the development team, and this has worked out very well for us. And the collaboration between the product owner and the UX designer has worked very well, and because I think it's also partly because we have a very visual kind of product, and sometimes you need to start with a sketch, sometimes you need to start with a user story, and it has been successful for us to have it this way, and we also have a closer link to the end user in our product team, which is very nice to have this deeper understanding. And a big change in how we think about product development is that we realized that we don't have to do everything ourselves. There's a lot of things that our clients want and they need, and related to their energy management work or sustainability work or something else that is connected to what we do, but not really within our scope. And before we might have been a bit scared to say that to a customer that this is not within our scope, but now we found another solution for that, and instead of we providing it, we work closely with our collabs, and we're building an ecosystem around that to provide value and services to our clients without having to produce or build them ourselves. And I think this is a great way of scaling up, and I could have a whole talk just talking about how to build a network and the ecosystem and the value of that. But it's something I want you to take with you home today, that focus really on what you do the best, because that's where you will add the greatest value, and that's how you will be better than your competitors and provide the greatest value to your end user. And for us, it's many things, but for instance, like having the whole chain from collection, storing to analytics and visualization makes us better on all these things for us. But we don't want to be too broad with the use of our data and, for instance, provide consultancy services or something like that. But there are other companies out there that are very good at doing this, and we talk to them, and together we can offer greater value to our end users, and they will like us even more, basically. If you paid attention throughout, one mystery still remains, right? How did we manage to maintain such a low churn and have such loyal customers even throughout times where the product maybe wasn't as good as it could have been? And I will just give you two words here, and that is customer success. And I can't stress enough how important this is for growing companies. They are your ears and eyes on the ground. And I mean, I'm not saying this only because myself, I was a part of this team before, but they really understand the pain points every day of the customers, and also for the users of the system or the clients themselves, they are a place where they can go to get help when they don't understand how things work, or feel safe about that we actually listen to them and understand their pain points. We take in their ideas for improvements, and they just need to know that we are there for them. So I think this is one of the main reasons that we managed to keep this low churn, and it's still a very important part of our business, of course. I mean, loyal customers and low churn is one of the most valuable things for a SaaS company, because then you can grow over time together with your clients, and they help you with improving your product, which in return helps them to do better work and get more value out of it. So it's basically just a win-win situation. Before I wrap things up, I just want to leave you with some thoughts to help you initiate a change of process or what you're looking to do. And the first thing is reflect on how you do things. Understand why you do them. Understand what implications they have. And the easiest way to do this is to actually talk to each other, talk to one another, understand what the developers need to be more successful, what would help them be more focused, talk to your customer success to understand the pain points of the clients. And I mean, just talking to each other will help you so much. And in the end also, of course, talk to your users, because they know what they're struggling with every day. So understanding their struggles will help you focus on what you should do. Which brings me to the next point, and it is to actually focus on what you do best. There's a lot of things you could do, but you need to understand what are you best at, and then focus on that, because that's where you will excel, and that's where you will have the most impact, because there are a lot of companies doing a lot of things. So that's why you need to understand what differentiates you from these companies and focus more on that. And also, of course, don't be afraid to change things that doesn't work, and don't be afraid to try new things and understand what happens when you do it, and reflect on that, and do this whole process one more time. And I really enjoyed talking to you today, and I look forward to the further discussions we will have, and the questions you will have on this, and elaborating further on my thoughts on UX and digital experience, and how to build a better product development process. And you can also feel free to reach out to me anytime. You have my contact information here as well. But once again, thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to continue our talks.